This is the person that loved to be here, but unfortunately he cannot make it. But he promised he will be here in Japan at the second half of this year during the ITS Congress in Tokyo. So he asked me if I could have the possibility to hold his presentation about eCall and also about the next steps. So the information I share with you is coming from the European Commission. That's what you should be aware of. It is not my thoughts. He gave some information about the regulation process, the standardization, and also some other activities. And what I propose to do is that I will go through this presentation. Later on, we will have another eCall colleague. He is heading the HERO projects in Europe. He will do some additional information, and maybe then we grab at the end the questions you will have regarding this. It would help, let's say, all of us. So, from a policy point of view, there has been created a report on eCall, jointly prepared by two committees, the TRAN committee and the IMCO committee, like you see here. And the result they made available has been approved by the committees. 58 people were voting positive. 4 people did vote against this, and 8 people did not vote. So they were approved by the plenary on July 3rd. And that means, of course, with a big majority. What was in there? Well, the conclusion was that there has to be a call for mandatory introduction of eCall in Europe, and it shall be a public service based on the already available 112, and it should be a pan-European service according to pan-European standards in all vehicles embedded. And of course, you cannot do that overnight. Therefore, they established a timeline, and the timeline, let's say, over the last years has grown. Now the deadline is really by starting 2015 for all new M1 and N1 vehicles that will be newly type approved in the market, which of course does not mean that devices can be connected to those networks earlier. We will hear that there are 2 pilots like the HERO 1 and HERO 2 pre-deployment pilots running, ending 1 of those pilots by the end of next year and 1 at the end of 2014. We will hear more about this later. There will be coexistence with already running services. However, there is this prerequisite. Like we have seen before, the explanation about the emergency call, this is the process how an emergency call will and has to be handled in the future, at least as per 2015 for all new type approved vehicles. In addition, and that's also shown on this slide, I can inform you that between ITS Europe and ITS Russia, and therewith regarding eCall and ERA-GLONASS, there is a working group established already 2 years ago for taking care that what is established in a Western European car also will run under the ERA-GLONASS network, which is deployed in Russia by 2015 as well. And definitely, also one of the big points I just before mentioned in the other speech, that an emergency call can be simply made by just dialing 112. Imagine that right now in Europe, about only 30% of the people know that by this means you can set up an emergency call. That means already for the normal mobile network, additional activities are scheduled and already in plan to create awareness amongst the people, but also during the HERO pilots itself, the countries that are rolling out this eCall environment are creating awareness via awareness campaigns. So all these points you see on the right side were part of this report made by Mrs. Zenalova and Mr. Koch, both people representing the TRAN and the IMCO committee. On the right top picture, you see them. So the value chain is, let's say, consisting about 3 parts. The vehicle, whereas I already can say in the future, if the backbone network is there, why it shall be, let's say, reduced or restricted to vehicles only. But in this case, if we talk about the pan-European EU eCall using the 112, it is about vehicles as of 2015 for M1 and N1 cars. We will need something in the vehicle. This is the so-called in-vehicle system. We will have a mobile network that will use the universal service delivery. And then on the right side, you have the PSAP, the public safety answering point. And as already shown in this picture, at here, SAN standards are available, and also here, SAN and ETSI standards are available. I will go a little bit more in detail what is already available. And then you can see a lot is already available. First of all, regarding the PSAP, that means the call center side. So on the 26th of November 2012, a document, a regulation has been adopted, and it states more or less what has to be done in the PSAP per country. And 25 of 27 countries in Europe has signed or have signed this memorandum of understanding regarding eCall. That means if a country would roll out emergency call system in that country for vehicles, with that document they said we will do it according the standard. Yeah? Now this is the standard on the public safety answering point side. It is available, it is agreed upon, and can be implemented. Right now it is implemented in already 8 countries in Europe. We will come back to that later in the presentation by Mr. Andy Rook, who is heading this HERO project. And another 6 countries will follow starting as of coming January. So with respect to the mobile networks, there is also a document adopted already last year on the 8th of September 2011 telling the member states, please get active. Please approach your mobile network operators in your countries. They always state we are rolling out our mobile networks according to the latest standards and available. So please approach them and urge them to set up the possibility to forward this minimum set of data, plus as well forward this eCall flag to indicate at the public safety answering point there is coming data via in-band modem in addition to the setup of this call. They were also asking these countries to provide a report by March 31st, 2012. And based on the outcome of that report, which has been made available to the Commission already, they will undertake further actions if necessary. Interesting is that this emergency call, like also stated here by the European Commission, is free of charge for the end user. It means you buy the car, of course you pay for your seatbelt, of course you pay for your airbag, of course you pay for whatever you have in your car. If eCall is mandatory, the IVS system is in there, and the usage of the emergency call does not cost anything additional for the end user. So whilst buying the car, all these costs is covered. The good thing about this emergency call, which is separating this as well from other services, maybe third-party services, this is really using the technical specification for emergency calls. It means if the network is quite occupied, the bandwidth is quite occupied, and there comes an emergency call, it will drop off other calls and it will use the standard as it is foreseen exactly for that reason, an emergency call. So with respect to the type approval regulation, to put it in, let's say, some easier words together, there will be just a simple amendment for the vehicle type approval to the vehicle part. And with respect to the IVS system and with respect to the mobile connectivity, it is, in brackets, just a simple amendment regarding the things I have spoken about before, setting up that eCall flag which is necessary, creating that minimum set of data, and provide this standardized minimum set of data over the air and see that there is an end-to-end interoperability on this. And it will be there, as you can see here, adopted and also published by the fourth quarter of next year. So all the work already is in big progress, more or less already in the final stage, I have to say, from the observations I make. On this picture, you see in fact that from standardization point of view, nothing is open. There are standards for the vehicle side, there are standards for the mobile network, and there are standards for the PSAP. All these standards are available, published, including the Pan-European eCall operating requirements, including the documents for end-to-end conformance testing. So what are the next steps? We have seen that the European bodies for standardization already did their work. They're done. Some additional things that come up during the Hero pilot, and that's one of the very tricky things the European Commission has thought about. Let's do the deployment via pilots, then we get ahead step by step, and we don't have to wait further delays, etc. So we learn a little also by doing. And we find very interesting and additional things when it's with respect to, for example, heavy good vehicles, like you see here, or also regarding the infrastructure, or also when it's about next generation networks. Now these topics, these questions, of course, we don't throw them in the trash can. We pick them up, we discuss them during the Hero pilot, during this pre-deployment in those countries, and we will find solutions. Like I said before, we want to represent the entire value chain, and we will find the solutions for the questions that arise up. We don't ignore them. This is all under control of the EEIP, which is the European eCall implementation platform. And this body is bringing together, let's say, all the relevant stakeholders, value chain players that want to support the rollout of this eCall. Unfortunately, sometimes there are some just sitting there and listening, sucking data. But luckily, the majority already is running and executing. It is about, let's say, my observation 6 months ago, that there are no further questions and buts arising, but the stuff goes rather, how are we going to do that? What can we do next? So there is a, let's say, a change of mind, which you could already observe within this eCall implementation platform. So member states are there, the Hero project leaders for the countries, for the member states are there, that already installed the PSAPs. They report about their Hero pilots in their countries, in their member states. And the nice and very interesting point here, and this underlines that this is not a joke, European Commission itself is taking the lead chair. So appointed already for more than 1 year here, Mr. Jeskalainen, you see on this picture here. And on the other side, you see a member state out of Germany who is co-chairing this function in the eCall implementation platform. We had just had the last meeting on the 22nd of November, and our next meeting will be in March 2013. So what we discussed there as well, and it's interesting that we have the Hero project manager available with us today. There are a lot of task force that pop up. So if there is an issue, we don't throw it away in the trash can, we address it in certain task forces. And here you see an overview of all these task forces, and as a project manager of Hero, he is chairing all of them. So for example, here in the middle, you see this silent task force. What the hell is going to happen if there are so many fake eCalls? What is going to happen when somebody is not reacting, etc.? Well, these things, we address them. They are all addressed in, for example, such one. Let's see, is there another one that I should just... Yeah, maybe we pick this one. On the most right side, you can see it, yeah. This is one which has been proposed in the last eCall implementation platform meeting. So we talked so far about the integration of an IVS system, which is mandatory by 2015. But the networks are already done in some countries by 2013, in other countries by 2014. So why they shall wait until 2015? So by 2013 year end, if let's say 8 of the 9 countries from the Hero 1 pilot are done, the network, the infrastructure is ready for eCall. So for that, probably there will be retrofit IVS systems installed, or even coming via the aftermarket or even the consumer market, compliant solutions, end-to-end, of course, compliant to the regulations and the specifications, the European norm available. So also these topics we are going to address in such a task force. I will not jump in too much detail because I know that Andy Rook will dive in a little deeper about the countries that are, let's say, supporting the Hero 1 pilot. There will come, as you see here at the right bottom, a Hero 2 pilot. He will also explain this. Where you can find further information, all these kinds of information are available directly at the European Commission. You, for example, see here a Facebook page. In the middle, you see some movies they already created to provide information, to also create end-user awareness. And yeah, if you have further information, you can also get this directly from the Secretary at the Commission at the links provided on the final slide of your presentation. Thank you very much.
マーシャル・フィッサー様、どうもありがとうございました。